Michael, welcome to this interview with Reuters Events. Want to jump straight in and ask about the ACES Delta project, so please talk us through that one.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Luke, and appreciate the opportunity to discuss about our project and some of the exciting things we've been doing around hydrogen. The ACES Delta project really is the world's first green hydrogen production and storage project that has gone into construction, completed financing, and moving forward at large scale. And when you really look at the scale of the project, that's what really makes this exciting and interesting. All told, we're looking at 100 metric tons per day of hydrogen production that's fed by 220 megawatts worth of electrolyzers. And all that is being stored, that hydrogen that's being produced is being stored in two massive salt caverns that really the size of like the Empire State Building. And all that together is supporting long duration energy storage for our ultimate off-taker, which is the Intermountain Power Agency. And so the Intermountain Power Agency is looking to achieve 100% clean hydrogen, carbon-free hydrogen in their gas turbine combined cycle, which is running on Mitsubishi's gas turbine, hydrogen-capable gas turbines. And initially, they're going to start at a blend of 30% green hydrogen and 70% natural gas, ultimately moving to 100% hydrogen. And so when you look at this whole ecosystem, we're basically taking excess renewables, converting it into hydrogen via our electrolyzers, storing that hydrogen in these massive salt caverns. And then when IPA is looking to provide firm, reliable power back to the grid, we're providing that hydrogen from the caverns to the combined cycle to support that entire ecosystem. And so really exciting project. And again, the scale and magnitude and the first of its kind application here for long duration energy storage is really what makes this project unique and exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, I have to ask, how do you even get started on a project of that scale, so complicated? How do you even get through pitching, let alone permitting?
It's a great question. And actually, it's really interesting if we rewind a little bit to when we were really immersing ourselves in this project. It was 2019. And you think back to 2019, there was no discussion of hydrogen hubs. Hydrogen was still seen as this, people were familiar with the hydrogen economy from the early 2000s. We actually had folks that told us when we were investing in this project that it was a science project, that we were throwing our money away. And again, that's 2019, so a little more than 3 or 4 years ago. Whereas today, you would think that hydrogen, has always been around, the idea of hubs, everything else. So taking that first mover, really that leadership role, was really important, but it was challenging. I mean, when you're trying to convince even internally the amount of money we're looking to spend to develop a project like this, it's never been done before. We don't have the tailwinds like we see around financing and around the buzz and excitement of hydrogen like we had in 2019. But what we did have, first of all, was really a commitment from the Mitsubishi side of supporting our customers' goals of achieving 100% carbon neutrality. And so when we look at the need to get to that deep decarbonization, and we look at all what's happening in the environment with renewables, with clean energy, that's where we saw it and made sense to make the investment like we did back in 2019. And so once we make that investment, that's where we really start learning of what it did take to get a project with a scale and magnitude done where it hasn't been done before. And so even down to the permitting and looking at codes and standards, we've learned that some of these were never even written or contemplated around an idea of an electrolyzer that's providing hydrogen for, in this case, an off-taker around power. And so a lot of our trailblazing in this project itself was us actually figuring out how to do some of these areas that haven't been explored before. At the same time, the great news is that the hydrogen industry for industrial gas opportunities and of course refineries, that has been around for decades. And so there are best practices, there are codes and standards that apply to the handling and use of hydrogen, how we look at facility builds, et cetera. And so we're really drawing on that decades worth of best practices and handling of hydrogen in these other industries. But now we were, again, solving for some of these more unique market applications of hydrogen that haven't been explored before. And so that's really all together how our team was able to solve some of those unique and first mover challenges.
Absolutely. And in terms of the technology, though, I did want to press in on the number of storage technologies. Obviously, this is a growing space. Can you just talk through specifically the benefits of hydrogen, particularly green hydrogen?
Sure. And so going back, this is as I mentioned earlier, a application of long duration energy storage. So what does that mean and why is that important right now? When we look at the West Coast of the United States, we're seeing that at just 30% or so renewables, what's happening is in the springtime, we have this overproduction of renewables. So you've got great wind and solar assets. You've got the spring melt that's occurring. And so we've got great hydro resources coming in. But by the way, in the springtime is about, from a load standpoint, where we have a glut, where there's not, you don't have air conditioners running, you don't have as much demand on the electricity intake side. And so what happens is we're overproducing massive amounts of renewables. And again, just in California alone, we're averaging roughly 300 gigawatt hours per month of wasted, curtailed renewables in the springtime. Now, then fast forward into the summer timeframe, and what are we seeing? We're seeing extreme gluts or unavailability of renewables, yet we see a lot of need for electricity production. And so just in 2020 alone, California saw its first rolling blackouts in over 2 decades. So the market we have today at just 30% renewables, we're way overproducing in some seasons of the year and way underproducing in some seasons of the year. And that's where hydrogen plays a really important, vital role. So what we're doing in this project is actually taking that excess renewables, and rather than using a battery, which batteries are fantastic for intradaily storage. Everybody hears about the duck curve and that midday sun is overproducing for solar in the evening as people are coming home and it's nighttime and looking at turning on air conditioners and cooking dinners, et cetera. That's where batteries play a very vital role, is that intradaily energy arbitrage. What they're not great at doing is supporting the seasonal energy arbitrage. When you think about batteries and trying to hold the charge for weeks or months, again, it's just not the technology of choice. Hydrogen, conversely, is the exact opposite. Hydrogen is not necessarily a great choice of energy storage to do intradaily energy arbitrage, but it's a fantastic technology to use for seasonal energy arbitrage. And so this is the exact application we have in our project here out in Delta, Utah. And as you think forward, this is just the 30% renewables. As we go towards 50, 75, 100%, that problem is only going to be exacerbated. And this is where hydrogen will play a really important role in all energy storage technologies and helping support long duration applications and balancing renewables.
Perfect. Well, yeah, super interesting. And I have to ask, with the energy and the financial community looking at the IRA, core focus of this discussion, talk us through the US DOE's $504 million landmark loan that was secured for this project.
Yes, it was a really exciting loan and really exciting opportunity to work with the U.S. Department of Energy. I actually used to work at the DOE over 10, 15 years ago. And so it was a great opportunity to see that public-private partnership and what we can do working together between industry and government. When you look at this loan itself, what was really important with this, first of all, it was the first loan coming out of the Loan Programs Office for Renewable Energy in over a decade. And so, as we're seeing the momentum, one thing that to note is, of course, the Loan Programs Office supported a lot of great projects and opportunities. We look at solar and wind, but they did their job. Their job is looking at these first few projects that move forward. How do we get costs down? How do we get financing costs lower to support where commercial debt can take it on more efficiently? And that's what's happened traditionally. And we look again, solar and wind industry, of course, that occurred. And so the Loan Program Office, not necessarily as vital to those types of projects moving forward. Now we look at hydrogen. And again, we're looking at technologies that have been around for decades, going on arguably even a century, but we're having these first of market applications, and we're looking at much bigger scaling of sizes. And so that's where the Loan Program Office really came in at looking at an innovative way of decarbonizing, in this case, we're utilizing hydrogen, and at scales and magnitudes that just hadn't been done necessarily before. And so for them to come in on a project like this, and of course their goal was a few other projects like this, to help provide low-cost debt. Of course, part of the process is a lot of due diligence and making sure, of course, from a technical standpoint, from a commercial standpoint, that risks are mitigated. This, again, it's not a science project. This is a commercial scale project, and they treat it just like a commercial lender would. But from a financing standpoint, of course, it is a bit cheaper than if we went to a commercial debt. Fast forward 3, 5, 7 years from now, the goal will be to be able to go to the commercial markets and get similar type of low cost financing, just like we've seen it occur in solar and wind. So, as we continue forward here, it's been a great partnership with the DOE and working together and solving a lot of these first mover challenges in financing a project of this scale and magnitude that have never been done before.
Perfect. And it ties in well for my final question of this round of interview. Collaboration is a key message for Mitsubishi Power. Heard that many a time. But please talk us through the project partners informing this project.
Yeah, when we think about collaboration, it really is a fundamental pillar of how we're approaching the business and how we're approaching opportunities, particularly around clean hydrogen. And what we really see is the opportunity here is, as they say, rising tide lifts all ships. And so how do we work with other partners? Even if there's some overlaps, it doesn't matter. We're still looking at those opportunities to grow a nascent industry and grow together. And in this application with the ACES Delta project, we had the opportunity to work with some fantastic partners. I already mentioned the U.S. Department of Energy working through and trailblazing really in this first loan that, as I said, has been done in more than a decade. The Intermountain Power Agency, our ultimate off-taker here, this really took them in their leadership role of stepping forward and committing to running on 100% green hydrogen by 2045, and out of the gate, running on a blend of 30% green hydrogen in 2025. It took their commitment to really move this project forward, but more so the collaboration between the two entities. And we really fostered a great team environment. And just think about that too, when we're negotiating this deal, there are no contracts that we can pull off a shelf and say, all right, here's what the terms and conditions should be for the production and storage of green hydrogen. Here's what, types of even performance testing and other areas, down to just all the nitty gritty we see in a commercial document. We don't have that existed today. So we were really taking a blank sheet of paper and working collaboratively, constructively of how to de-risk the project, who was best to take on certain risks of the project and others, and really get this to a financeable deal. And so it took that type of collaboration and constructive work together to get there. And then ultimately we get into some of our contractors and other vendor suppliers, Black & Veatch, who's providing the surface related facilities and our EPC contractor for the project, WSP, who's supporting the subsurface activities in the drilling for the caverns, Mitsubishi's providing the electrolyzers and integrated hydrogen equipment. All these suppliers, contractors coming together with our off-taker, with our financiers. We also have equity coming in through several major entities. So all this really came together in this roll up your sleeve type of mentality and figure out how to get a project this scale and magnitude together. And that collaboration was absolutely fundamental to getting this deal done. And it's really fundamental to our business and how we pursue all of our projects going forward.
Great. Well, very well put. Good luck with the project. We'll all be following it very intently. To our listeners, I definitely encourage you to look up the ACES Delta project. Fascinating, huge scale, and no easy feat whatsoever. Michael, thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, Luke. I appreciate the opportunity.
Great.